Kentucky Derby.
Now they move around the turn. The leader, War Admiral, 2.5 for 3.
That's what it is in the center of the racetrack. The Admiral Sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem, he's pulling away. He's got another gear. Yeah, that's West Lake coming the Derby. Wheel away takes command. Lionheart is all heart. Smarty Jones is all out. And here is the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle's Slow of 1976.
Good morning and welcome to the Kentucky Derby Morning Workout Show presented by TwinSpires. Cloudy conditions, temperature in the low 50s, but on the rise. Beautiful morning. The main track rated as fast, and we are 1 week away from the Kentucky Oaks, a week and a day away from the Kentucky Derby, and we drop both tomorrow. Lots of Oaks workers expected today, and also the likely favorites for the Kentucky Derby in Fierceness. As we take a look at the headlines, we're going to start with Anna Marie, a sharp 5 furlong drill yesterday, 59-1. We'll take a look back. Fierceness scheduled to work his final Kentucky Derby breeze this morning for trainer Todd Pletcher and jockey Johnny Velasquez. Thorpedo Anna, Ways and Means, they are the Oaks horses headlining today's workers. And I mentioned the draw. It is tomorrow night between races 3 and 4, opening night under the TwinSpires. The draw will be held at the brand spanking new paddock. Joe Christofek and two-time Kentucky Oaks winning jockey Rosie Napravnik, Believe You Can and Untappable. Rosie, when we bring you on the show, we know it's that time to put the finishing touches on the Oaks and Derby horses. Welcome.
Thanks, Joe. I'm so glad to be here. Yeah, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know, the week before the Oaks and the Derby is when we get to see all the real excitement. So I'm so glad to be here and glad to be on the set with you, Joe.
Glad to have you. And we mentioned Fierceness is going to work this morning. Everybody's excited for that. A perfect transition to our top 20 as they stand now, with Sierra Leone and Fierceness 1-2 not only on the leaderboard, but in the hearts of the bettors. They're going to be the two defined favorites, one would guess.
Yeah, and completely opposite running styles.
That's
for these
right.
Two favorites. So it'll be very interesting to see.
Certainly. Well, as we take a look at the second page and the second 10, with Grandmo the first being the 20th horse, you see Anna Marie there, number 13 with that sharp work yesterday. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. And the horses on the outside looking in currently, including number 21, Epic Ride coming in from Turfway Park. And you remember Rich Strike was number 21 just a couple of years ago, drawing in at the last minute and winning the Derby at 80-1. Let's take a look at the credentials of Fierceness. Hit or miss so far, Rosie. 3 big wins, very impressive, including the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, the 2-year-old champ Fierceness, and most recently the Florida Derby, but a couple of clunkers as well.
Yeah, I mean, this horse, when he runs his best races, he just looks like he is unbeatable. And then, you know, honestly, in watching the races that he didn't run well, there really isn't a great excuse for it. So it's really interesting, and I'd love to talk to Johnny and see what he thinks about the times he hasn't put in his best performances.
This is a recent gallop a couple of days ago for Fierceness. Again, he's going to breeze this morning, but Todd Pletcher talks about how laid back this horse is, and you see it in his gallops.
Yeah, I mean, to have a horse that trains like this, really laid back, is kind of a gift for a trainer. It allows the horse to do its job, get enough out of what it's doing without putting too much unnecessary pressure on their bodies. So, you know, he's out here with his ears pricked, striding out really well, happy to be there, just galloping around the track.
He just
like
does
he belongs.
things so easily. His wins have been so easy, especially the Florida Derby, and this workout was so easy. He's going to have the same work made today, Rosie. It's a gate row, this one on the outside, kind of a more deeper type closer. You see Fierceness on the rail here. This was from Palm Beach Downs 1 week ago, and Fierceness just again does things so effortlessly.
Yeah, you know, he's really striding out in this work. You can see that the rider's got him off the rail and is kind of just in hand and easily outworking the workmate. you know, trying to keep it a perfect work time, a minute and 1/5. So absolutely a nice move. Strides out so well and gallops out well here too.
Impressive work from Fierceness. Again, we're going to see him breeze during the designated training period. Let's take a look at Todd Pletcher's numbers in the Derby. Nobody has started more horses, 64 of them. He's got a couple of wins. His only previous Kentucky Derby favorite was Always Dreaming, and that horse did win in 2017. Of course, Forte probably would have been the favorite last year, scratched leading up to the Derby, and Uncle Mo back in 2011 was scratched the day before the Kentucky Derby. So Todd Pletcher, a lot of starters, but not many favorites, only Always Dreaming. All right, let's take a look at Sierra Leone's credentials. And this guy has only had one loss. It came in the Remsen when it looked like he was going to win. Chad Brown put the blinkers on him after that narrow defeat to Dornoch, and he's a perfect 2 for 2 since, winning both the Risen Star and the Bluegrass.
Yeah, and you know, this horse has done very little wrong, but has come out of some smaller races.
Well, there he is galloping on the racetrack a couple of days ago, Rosie. And if you want to know what $2.3 million worth of thoroughbred looks like, there you have it.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't ask for a horse to train any better than this. I mean, here's a horse who's in the bridle, you know, wanting to put something into it, but not tugging his rider, not fighting with the rider. He's got a beautiful stride and just really smooth, strides out really well. Looks like he's very comfortable on the track. The rider looks very comfortable, not doing too much to have to ask him to slow down or speed up. He's just out there doing his job. Love to see it.
And we'll see him do his thing 1 week from tomorrow as we take a look at Chad Brown by the numbers. He followed the same path with Zandon in 2022 as he has with Sierra Leone, and it's a good path. It's the Remsen, it's the Risen Star at 1 1/8 miles. Then it's the Bluegrass, which he won those latter 2 races in scintillating off-the-pace style. I think Sierra Leone is probably a little bit better than Zandon.
And I loved Zandon, but this horse, I mean, he's got such a reliable deep closing style, and that's, you know, something to be said for in the Derby when you're going 1 1/4 miles.
Speaking of reliable, deep closing styles, let's transition to Anna Marie. He didn't cost $2.3 million. He only cost $40,000. He's already outperformed that sales price, over $500,000 in the bank. Churchill Downs newcomer Ben Curtis in the saddle for Whit Beckman, his first Kentucky Derby starter, and he has a win here at Churchill Downs in the Kentucky Jockey Club, second last out in Louisiana Derby. And here yesterday, Rosie, he's working outside his sprint stablemate Agu, who is an accomplished one-turn horse. Anna Marie, a deeper out-the-back closer in most of his races, but he's right up on the hip of Agu throughout this workout.
Yeah, it is interesting to see his work style compared to his running style, because a horse that is, you know, can close like he does doesn't always put so much into the first part of his work. And you can see that his rider is kind of just sitting comfortably outside of this horse that's got some speed, has been, you know, running some credible races, one-turn races, but Anna Marie is sitting chilly on the outside and doing it easily. You can see his rider is kind of standing up tall, hasn't asked him for anything yet. They turn for home and he's just comfortably on the outside, moving within himself underneath his rider. Here the rider will just ask a little bit here at the end, but 59-1, I mean, that's a great move.
12 flat, 23-4, 35-3, 47-2, 59-1. Galloping out here, Rosie, very nicely, 112-3, 7/8 and 127-3. A bullet workout for Anna Marie yesterday, a wise guy horse for this year's Kentucky Derby. We're going to transfer from the Derby to the Oaks, the Kentucky Oaks, 1 week from today, a race that you know quite a bit about, having won it twice. There's some nice fillies in this year's race.
Yeah, I like several, and I've you know, watching these fillies, it's an exciting race. I think this is going to be a really great race.
We're going to ask you which one you'd like to ride, Rosie. Let's take a look here at the top 10. And you see Leslie's Rose, the winner of the Ashland over Just FYI, the 2-year-old juvenile filly champion. In her comeback race, she looked really good. She's been training here like a monster. Thorpedo Anna expected to work this morning. Tarifa worked earlier this morning as we turn the page. And we'll see Ways and Means. She just barely gets in, number 14. She was beaten in her last start in Florida, but she might be the favorite for Chad Brown. You know, the top 5 in here could vie for favoritism.
Yeah, I really don't know who's going to end up being the favorite. I absolutely love Leslie's Rose. That is my favorite race to ride, and the race that she ran in the Ashland. Sitting in the pocket.
Trip.
I mean, and she was just, the rider is so confident in that race, he's pulling goggles down as he's approaching the quarter pole and hasn't even moved.
Yeah,
So
that pocket trip, and then on top of it, the rail was really good that day
yes,
too.
Yeah. And you know, looking at her here, she's off the rail here in this breeze. 49-2 is just like a nice maintenance work, doing it well in hand. Love the way this filly moves. She doesn't look like a huge filly. I haven't seen her up close. But it's got a great stride on her. And I just love the confidence between the horse and the rider.
Yeah.
Neither of them, you know, were in a rush in the Ashland. She's obviously, if you can sit in the pocket or sit in between horses, sit behind horses, that's what you want in a race like the Kentucky Oaks.
Right now on the outside looking in, as you see Leslie's Rose finishing up her work from yesterday. Another Todd Pletcher trainee, and a very talented one at that. This is Candied. Short clip of her 47-3 work yesterday. She needs defections to get into the field. She broke very poorly in the Ashland last out, and she kind of hangs on her left lead in some of her races. She still seems to be a horse that's trying to figure things out mentally.
Yeah, and a faster move here, 47-3.
Yep.
For this filly with a workmate. You know, she looks like she's best of the workmate for sure. I can't, this is down the lane. Is this a shot from the inside? Oh, okay. It's from on the backside.
Yeah, we'll see if she can get in. She's got a lot of growing up to do. Maybe a filly that'll be a little bit better later on in the year, but I know Todd would love to run her in the Kentucky Oaks. And Todd has had, you know, plenty of success in the Oaks in the past. He's won it 4 times, Malathat, the most recent one.
Right.
Leslie's Rose kind of reminds me a little bit of her.
Yeah, and Candy, you know, getting better and running in good company. I do really love Leslie's Rose. And like you said, there's just so many to like in here.
You won't see Leslie's Rose today. I'm guessing she's going to have a walk day. We will get a chance to see her train tomorrow, but we got a lot of Oaks workers on tap, including Ways and Means. Looking very forward to that. Could be the favorite for trainer Chad Brown. We'll also have Fierceness, one of the likely favorites for Kentucky Derby 150. We'll be right back.
As they head to the backstretch, it's a tight pack.
He's going to pull ahead. The TwinSpires expert picks were all optimistic.
You've got the best speed rating in the field. Don't fail me now.
Man, I love this horse's name.
And from far behind, here comes Frank. It's neck and neck. Frank is winning. Frank wins!
No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires, the official betting partner of the Kentucky Derby. Get your money back if your horse finishes second or third in eligible races.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show presented by TwinSpires, and there you see the URL, TwinSpires.com. Also, the trusty TwinSpires app. It's fast, it's safe, it's easy to use. You can do bet shares, you got expert picks. Don't play the races anywhere else. TwinSpires.com is the place to go. And I haven't even mentioned yet the great promos that TwinSpires has to offer, including this one on Derby Week starting tomorrow. It's the money back offer, one of the most popular ones. TwinSpires is offering insurance on your win bets on all eligible races at Churchill Downs in the form of a $10 money back offer. Head to TwinSpires.com or that trusty TwinSpires app for official rules. Select offers and participate in the Derby Week money back offer. Again, bet 10 to win. Horse run second or third to get your money back. It's a little bit of insurance on those win bets. Also starting Thursday, which is Thurby, it is the $2,500 Thursday leaderboard competition. Make at least a $10 win wager on a single horse in all of the races at Churchill Downs. When they run first, second, or third, you're going to earn points. And when you earn points, you climb up the leaderboard for your share of the $2,500 prize pool. Contest is free to enter. All you have to do is head to TwinSpires.com or the app, select the offers page, and opt into the Thurby leaderboard contest. All right, Joe Christofek and Rosie Napravnik joining you. We are just moments away, Rosie, from the designated 15-minute training period for the Oaks and Derby horses. Scheduled to work Fierceness, and he will be vying for favoritism this year with Sierra Leone. Very excited to see this work this morning.
Yeah, same here, and excited to see these two favorites with such opposite running styles.
Yeah.
You know, from a betting standpoint, it's always fun to try to play against the favorites, but I mean, these horses have never matched up against each other.
Yeah.
They have totally different running styles, so it is really going to be a fun Derby to watch with these two going in.
There you see Fierceness. Now, the draw is tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's going to play a huge part for both of these horses.
For both of them, even Sierra Leone, he's a deep out the back closer. Why do you think the draw would be important for him? And to me, I think if you're Fierceness, you kind of want to draw outside the other speed, right?
Yeah, if I'm Fierceness, I want to be somewhere in the middle of the field.
Okay.
Because you have the most options from there. I mean, he has had a little bit of trouble coming out of the gates sometimes, but I mean, either way, what I see when I watch Fierceness races is that he kind of needs a clean trip, and that's what's a little worrisome. So he's going to want, you know, middle to outside, but not too much to do going into the first turn, whereas Sierra Leone, I would prefer an middle to inside post because then you're just closer to the rail and you're going to save ground being behind horses.
Now, you see Johnny Velasquez on Fierceness here. He's won 3 Derbies, all pretty recently. And, you know, he's been through this many times before. Todd and him are going to have a conversation about what they want from that work. How do you think that, from this work this morning, how do you think that conversation has gone?
You know, Johnny Velasquez and Todd Pletcher have been around the sun together a few times. I mean, they know each other well. I bet there wasn't even much talking at all.
Yeah.
Because they know, you know,
Johnny
knows what Todd wants.
Yeah.
And Todd's got the, you know, the faith in Johnny. They've had such a rapport for such a long time. And I mean, this horse is, you know, a relatively, looks like an easy horse to get along with. I mean, if you could nickname him something right now watching, it would be like Happy Face.
Yeah.
You know, he's just out there doing his job. He looks like a very easy horse to get along with.
Let me ask you a question, though, because he is super laid back. And he's had 5 races, and 3 of them have been blowout wins. And the other 2 races, when things didn't go his way, he didn't, you know, perform at all for the most part. He has not been in a battle yet. He has not had to look another horse in the eye and have to go toe-to-toe down the stretch. We don't know about that quality in him yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's what would make me hesitant to place a bet on this horse as the favorite.
As
I would say
3 to 1 too. I mean, you're going to get.
I would say extremely talented, not necessarily reliable. Extremely talented. I mean, when his wins have been absolutely impressive as it gets. But like I said, I mean, just a little adversity thrown into the mix.
There's no adversity in the Kentucky Derby.
None, absolutely none. You don't even need to worry about that factor in the Kentucky Derby with 20 horses. But watching the races where, I mean, even the Holy Bull, I mean, he didn't get beat so far, but there really wasn't any reason for him not to win that day.
Right, especially given the competition.
So that's what I mean. I mean, and just, you know, just a little bit of a variable there. But gosh, I mean, like, I would love to be riding this horse right now. So I'm rooting for him. I love him. Happy Face. It's my nickname for him.
We're going to get set for this work here. And again, it looks like Fierceness is going to be maybe on the outside. We'll see how this plays out. But a Gate Road, again, a Gate Road's got some class. He's done some, you know, better work. He's maybe more of a turf or a synthetics kind of horse. It's interesting that Todd pairs these two up. But again, Todd doesn't have his whole, you know, allotment of horses on the grounds here. And, you know, these two are pointing for races Derby week, as you'll see here. Fierceness on the outside. We saw the work at Palm Beach Downs. It was the other way around, where Fierceness was on the inside.
Right. And you can see as they're getting into the work, Fierceness actually putting the head in front here, which he does, you know, he likes to run in hand in his races as well. I mean, so it looks like the workmate is... You know, it's funny when you see the angles of the video here too, it's a little bit different than the actual reality. So they look like they're really head and head, and the workmate's within hand on the inside. He's even pricking his ears a little bit. But Fierceness, look at him. He's Happy Face. He's moving extremely well. This is not a hard work for him. I mean, it looks like to be your perfect maintenance, half a mile.
Right, and he's just not set down at all, and he just does things so easily, so we know the tank hasn't been emptied by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he did this in the Florida Derby. You know, the rest of the field was all in, Rosie, at the half-mile pole.
That's a great gallop out.
I mean, that acceleration.
He really accelerated after the wire there. And now, you know, Johnny's not moving his hands. He just crouched a little lower and said, "It's a mile and a quarter, buddy." Let's look at him gallop out.
You want to try to beat this horse, you know, and he just might be breathing different air than the rest of them.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. I mean, you could say that was a 5/8 work past the wire.
Yeah, we'll get those times courtesy of John Nichols and Kevin Kirstein here momentarily. Not that the times really matter. We know what we saw.
Right. Yeah. No, that was a great move and a really impressive gallop out. There was a lot of acceleration there after the wire. And it looked like they were moving pretty well too, to the wire. I'm anxious to see what the time was because I bet it's like right on a 48, 49.
Yeah.
By the way it looked, and then a really nice.
Yeah, perfect.
Gallop out.
There you see Fierceness. We're going to transition over to Thorpedo Anna, and she looks like a loaded gun there. She
does look like a loaded gun.
Absolutely tremendous. I mean, her work the other day, Ken McPeak, you know, quoted as saying, "I'm bringing a bear to the Oaks, they better bring a grizzly if they want to beat me." And that's the way she's trained. That's the way she ran early in her 2-year-old season. That's the way she ran in the fantasy. Could not be coming up to this race any better, and we'll get an opportunity to see her work today. She's not supposed to be this kind of racehorse. She's by Fast Anna. They didn't pay a lot of money for her either, but it just goes to show you that you can spend a lot, you can spend a little, and when those 14 for the Oaks and the 20 for the Derby make the starting gate, you just never know. You're just going to get a hodgepodge of different methods of buying the horses and different roads of getting there, and that's what makes it so great and why we have so many great storylines.
Yeah, I mean, racehorses come in all different shapes, sizes, and price tags. I
So what do you
say Derby horses and Oaks horses come in all shapes and sizes and price tags.
Yeah. What are you seeing right now from her? I mean, she just got her neck bowed, and
she knows what's about to happen.
She knows, yeah.
And but it looks like, you know, this is Brian Hernandez up for the Breeze here, who will ride her in the Oaks. It looks like, you know, they have a really a good communication going on here. I know Brian's one that likes to go out and get on horses in the morning, so I know he's been on her several times, and Kenny will have the jockeys out. But you can see here, she knows what's getting ready to happen. But she's responding well to her rider.
Thorpedo Anna, the recent winner of the fantasy, and her only start as a 3-year-old, and she did it very, very well. She broke from post 10, Rosie. She sat third just off the speed, took over when asked, drew off to win by 4. Her only loss came off of a 15-day layoff in the Goldenrod as the favorite last year. Other than that lone blip on the radar, she's won her 3 other races by a combined 21.5 lengths.
Yeah, and I mean, you wonder, you know, first race off of a pretty significant layoff and wins and runs a big race, but she did it easily. So when you're thinking, was it too much? It doesn't seem like it was.
No.
You can tell they're moving along right here. Brian had his feet kind of on the dashboard there going into the turn, and now he's just letting her loom up. But she looks like a horse that likes to work fast, and yet she's rateable in her races, which is, you know, just the type of horse that you want to have. Yeah, you can see Brian is not really moving at all. And a great matchup. Like, this is really what you want, is a horse, a workmate that will stay with your horse to just keep their attention in these, you know, these final maintenance works.
I like to
really
know
good
who the workmate is too, because the workmate actually is working pretty well.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I wonder who the workmate is. Do we know who it is?
I don't right now, but I'm hoping and guessing we will find out. And okay,
good gallop out.
There you
see. So you know, this is where you see there's the Oaks horse. The riders stand up, and Thorpedo Anna just absolutely says, "Oh, now I can breathe and, you know, really lengthen my stride to where I want it."
And the reasoning for Brian standing up?
He's just letting her gallop out at her own pace. And honestly, he took a little tug there and then relaxed again, like we're letting her know we're done.
Yeah.
But he's letting her gallop. There, you know, he raises his hands up like, "Hey, we're done. We can pull up at any time now." And she's finally kind of easing up. But a really nice work and a really nice gallop out.
We've got into Champaign. another Kentucky Oaks, who worked at the same time as Thorpedo Anna. So this one's going to come on tape, and she's going to work solo here. And this is a horse, Rosie, that I believe will be showing speed in the Kentucky Oaks. Third last out, and a distant third behind Power Squeeze and Ways and Means. Ian Wilkes, a fun ownership group here. And into Champagne, they name a lot of horses after booze, Champagne in particular. And they'll be cracking some if she were to make a good account of herself a week from today.
Yeah, I mean, when you say speed, I mean, she is super sharp from the gate. And this rider was actually kind of letting her work a little bit, and even, you know, the gallop out looks fantastic as well. And by herself, I bet that was by design, because it looks like she's willing to do plenty on her own without needing a workmate to keep her company. Striding out super well.
Explain that a little bit. Like, so you'll put a horse with company if they need to display a little bit more competitiveness. You said she, you know, is fine on her own. That was a good work. I'm guessing she's going to get a pretty fast time, but trainers learn that about horses during that progression phase.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could relate it kind of to maturity in some ways, but, you know, horses have their different styles. You know, sometimes a trainer will put a workmate just a little bit in front of the horse to give him something to chase. And sometimes they'll put a workmate just sitting off, you know, the Derby horse to push him along. And so, like, there you might see, like, one of the closers might have a horse sort of pushing him along, giving him something to run for. So, and I wonder if this is another Pletcher.
This is going to be a
Oaks
Manama
worker.
Gold. This is going to be the horse that won the UAE Oaks that had some quarantine issues, and she's on the outside looking in for the Kentucky Oaks. She's actually a full sister to Overcharged, who I know you're familiar with, from Louisiana. The Louisiana-bred Queen, we'll call her. She dominated a lot of the stakes against Pelican Staters in Louisiana at the fairgrounds this past winter. Overcharged is a sprinter, but Manama Gold has been a router, and we'll see what she does here in this work. Todd Pletcher saying that he thinks the Oaks might be coming up a little bit too quick for her, thought about maybe waiting till the Acorn, but I'm guessing that final decision as to whether or not she would even be entered in the Oaks will probably come after this work.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't seen this filly train before, but I really love the way she moves. I mean, she reaches. Her gallop out here might not be exactly
Moonlight is the other horse.
what they're looking for.
Pretty decent Todd Pletcher trained 3-year-old colt.
You can see that the
accomplished.
rider on Manama Gold was kind of tapping her on the shoulder after the wire to go on. But she really reached down the lane. I love the way she moved.
We'll see the result of this work, and if it has any Kentucky Oaks implications, I should say. Well, there he is. There's Sierra Leone, and he got a good look at the horse he's going to go hoof to hoof with, at least in the stretch, you would think, in the Derby, in Fierceness. He is now exiting the racetrack. I got some exercise a little bit earlier. We're going to see him work tomorrow. And there you see, just FYI, this is the horse I'm kind of leaning towards in the Oaks for Bill Mott. She only had the one race this year, but she's a 2-year-old champ. I thought she was compromised by the trip in the Ashland behind the horse that we saw work yesterday, Leslie's Rose. And I think she's just going to take another big step forward. And, you know, we said earlier, Rose, you can put a blanket over like 5 of these Oaks fillies who could vie for favoritism, and should be an exciting finish.
You really could. And just as much as I loved Leslie's Rose in the Ashland, like you said, this filly had a 5-wide trip.
Yeah.
I mean, no
over
choice.
An inside racetrack.
Yeah. So, I mean, she had the track and the trip working against her there. But she looks fantastic out here training. There's a lot of substance to her. I mean, she's got a huge, powerful hind end. And I loved the way she strided out in the Ashland. She's done very little wrong, winning all of her other 3 starts. You know, she can come between horses. She can, you know, she obviously has a good running style, tactical enough, but can close, you know, is not by any means one-dimensional. And I just really like that last race. And coming off a layoff, too.
Yes, she was compromised.
Another horse coming off a layoff.
Compromised a little bit at the start. She was in tight between horses. You mentioned the wide trip, and, you know,
Yeah.
Leslie's Rose just had that perfect pocket trip, popped out and just finished with authority. But just FYI's work the other morning, I would say if I was doing and again, I'm not qualified to do this, but if I was doing my top 5 works that I've seen since we've started airing the show, that would be number 1, and it would be a pretty, extreme distance to number 2. That work the other day was just tremendous.
Yeah, and I mean, you wonder with the huge effort and having to lose all the ground in that race off the layoff, you wonder, like, well, is that going to take too much out of her? And when you're watching her gallop today, it appears as though it not.
Right.
She is tugging on her rider, and she looks like a really big, strong filly as well for Belmont, who typically has some really, really good riders in the morning on his horses. Exercise riders. But look at how big she is. Huge stride on her.
She'll be ridden by Junior Alvarado in the Kentucky Oaks. Again, 1 week from today, we're going to draw both the Oaks and the Derby tomorrow during live racing. Looking extremely forward to that as we, have a pretty good idea, the 20 for the Derby and the 14 for the Oaks, but once we draw those post positions, we can really start to visualize what kind of trips we think they're going to get. And when you sat there at these draws, Rosie, and you had, had your horse and what you thought the path to victory would be, I mean, do you just say, whatever happens, happens, or do you sit there really nervous about what post you're going to draw?
I mean, there's one thing that you do not have any control over.
Right.
So maybe manifestation.
There you go.
In my first Derby I rode, I was riding Pants on Fire, who had a little speed, and he drew the 7. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Couldn't have picked anything better. Now, my last Derby, I was on Vickers in Trouble, who's probably half the size of every horse in the race. And we drew the 1 hole.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is happening. I'm going to have to ride out of the 1 hole on a tiny little speed horse.
Yeah. There's Forever Young. This is the Japanese representative this year. Teo Password is on the grounds as well. He represents Japan, but they've just really stepped up their game, Rosie. Their breeding program, most of their better horses had been turf horses in the past. Now they're, flexing their muscle on the dirt all over the world. I would venture to say in the next 10, maybe even 5 years, they're going to win a Kentucky Derby. This is the horse that's probably going to be vying for 3rd favoritism behind Sierra Leone and Fierceness, Forever Young. And, it's just tough for me. You can look at the past performances, you can watch the horses train to get a real legitimate, genuine gauge on horses like this.
Yeah, it's hard because in the, in other countries they train a little bit differently. There's kind of those variables we don't know. I know, they're coming to win a Derby because they're here every year with a horse that belongs, come into the Kentucky Derby. This horse hasn't done anything wrong.
No, he hasn't lost.
I mean, his race, in the UA Derby, mile 3/16. I mean, he's moving all the right ways. And a lot of times the Japanese horses come over and are a little bit quirky. But look at this horse. Yeah. He's a class act. He's a real class act. So there's, you don't have that. I know, like, there's several that they're warming up in a different routine and you wonder why, or they're funny about the gait and you wonder how that's going to play out. But this horse doesn't seem to have those big red flag question marks on him, and certainly has the accolades to run a big race.
And even though he was bred in Japan, he is a first cousin to Sierra Leone. Their moms are sisters.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
good family.
That's pretty wild. All right, we're going to take a look at Tarifa from earlier this morning. This was at 5:17 this morning for trainer Brad Cox. Tarifa going through that fairgrounds route to the Kentucky Oaks, which has been a very strong one in recent years. And there she is again. And Brad Cox has said this about how headstrong she is in the mornings, and it's translated to the way she's raced in the afternoons. Talk about looking at a loaded gun here as you see Jinjin on the inside of her.
Yeah, I mean, Jinjin seems to be starting out kind of smooth in hand, but sorry. Yeah, okay. Sorry, the graphics are a little bit mixed up, but Tarifa on the outside, clearly, they put her on the outside to try to help rate her a little bit off this off this mare, and they're actually almost look like he was trying to stick her behind Jinjin in this work around the turn. But she's finally settled. I mean, I think for a horse that could be one of the favorites going in, you have to consider how this race will set up for her. Post positions will come into play when you've got a horse that can be a little bit rank. She's tugged on her rider a little bit going in their races, and is clearly maintaining her aggressive approach to training.
Yeah.
So, but I really like the way that Jinjin works here on the inside.
Yeah, she's legit as well, Jinjin. And, you're very familiar with the Oaks and Derby road that comes through New Orleans. I believe it's 10 of the last 25 winners of the Kentucky Oaks ran in the Rachel Alexander. That's a very high percentage. We saw, Pretty Mischievous come out of Louisiana last year to win the Kentucky Oaks. Have any theories as to why that is?
You know what? I haven't put much thought into it, but it does seem like my attention is drawn to those fairgrounds prep races every year for both the Oaks and the Derby.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking this as I'm saying it. I wonder if it has to do with how the tracks play a little bit similarly. Fairgrounds and
Longer
Churchill.
stretch.
Yeah, longer stretch, kind of the same sort of dimension, but I'm always looking at the horses that I've run at fairgrounds. I mean, there have been some really strong.
We're going to take a look at Endlessly here real quick, Rosie. Sorry to interrupt. This is a horse that has taken the Turfway path and has been beaten by his workmate in recent works, Yellow Card. Now he defeats the workmate here, but the workmate that you see on the inside has got a need for speed, who's 0 for 3 lifetime, hasn't raced in September. So I'm guessing maybe this workout was designed to give Endlessly a little bit of confidence. This is a horse that's been running on synthetics. He's more bred for turf and synthetics. He's got enough points to get in the Derby. And, we saw Rich Strike win the Derby coming out of Turfway. We saw 2 Phils last year run second in the Derby after coming out of Turfway. But to me, and I don't know, maybe you can see by the way he's moving, this is more of a turf or synthetics horse.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no doubt there. His breeding suggested on the top and the bottom. But I love this horse. I mean, the way he carries himself here, like he's almost level from the top of his rump to his ears.
Yeah.
He's so flat on the top. And
why is that a good thing?
Well, it just promotes running as fast as they can.
Okay.
So, when a horse, like for me, when a horse is trying their very, very hardest, it's like when they turn for home, they like lower about 3 inches.
Okay.
And this horse looks like he does that in his races to the max.
Okay, so we saw Fierceness earlier, and we talked about how laid back he was. This horse, certainly is feeling good right now. This is Catching Freedom, who has improved in every start speed figure-wise. He has a tremendous turn of foot. He's coming out of a victory last out in the Louisiana Derby, and he's coming into this race about as well as you could, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is a horse that looks like he gets better every race. He's got, a rateable horse here who's got a little bit more turn of foot, I think, a quicker turn of foot than a horse like Sierra Leone. I really like this horse. I actually saw him out in front of the barn. I was dropping my sons, Carson and Tucker, off at the backside before heading to the set, and I saw Catching Freedom outside of the barn. Brad Cox will jog all of his horses under tack before they go to the racetrack, just to make sure everybody's looking and feeling good. And he's a little bit smaller than I expected. He's not like a great big horse, but he certainly has a huge presence on the racetrack with the way that he likes to train. And to me, like, he carries his head in a way that it looks like I think he's pulling more than he actually is.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like he kind of tucks his nose to his chest. But if you look at the rider's hands, he's not really having to do a whole lot.
Right.
His feet aren't far in front of the rider, which means you're using your legs for leverage. I think it's a little bit more the way he carries himself that makes him look slightly more aggressive than he really is. Because he looks, I think he moves well. He's also got his ears back, right? So that kind of gives him an aggressive look. But I think he's just a horse that's focused on his job and likes to do it.
Yeah, the more I hear you talk, the more I watch these horses train and work, I'm getting more and more excited. I can't wait for this draw tomorrow.
Yeah.
Speaking of watching horses work, let's take a look back one more time at Fierceness from earlier. Because again, a tremendous work and a little bit of a different work than we've seen from some of these other horses and they've all done things easily, but this horse just does things so easily. This was basically right, when we got the horses on the track just past 7:30, you see a gate road on the inside here, Fierceness on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's any arguing with the talent that this horse possesses. I mean, he has a quick turn of foot. He's got speed. He does it easy. He does it super easy. I think the question is, does he have to have it easy? As far as his trip is concerned.
Yeah.
And I mean, he has had, the comments actually say pinballed in the Holy Bull. I definitely have never seen it say pinballed before, but it's a great, I've been pinballed before coming out of the gate, and it's a great analogy. So, I mean, it's not that he hasn't had the trouble, but, like we were talking about, that was in the beginning of the race, and I still think he had every opportunity to run really well.
I got some times here, Rosie. I just want to read these to you so you can kind of digest it as you see the gallop out. He gallops out in 126. 112 and 3 for 6 furlongs. 1 3/5 the gallop out time for 5. You were right on with the final workout time, 48 and 4. So you work 48 and 4 that easily, and then you gallop out 126 like that?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the gallop out visually. He just really accelerated. And that's really, when you're going into this race, mile and a quarter, you want, you want those even works, like a minute, 112. And that's a really strong work for 3/4. But he's doing it on the gallop out. He's doing it all after the wire. He only officially breezed a half and then is galloping out the rest of the way in 112, 126. I mean, that's a really impressive move.
I just want to read a couple more of these times. Thorpedo Anna goes 59 and 2. And she gallops out 112 and 3, and she was fast early. Into Champagne, a minute flat, galloping out 113. She was 36 and 2 for the opening 3 furlongs. Ways and means we didn't see her. I'm not sure if we got that one on tape to show for later, but she went 46 and 1.
Wow.
58 and 2 gallop out, 111 and 4 for 6 furlongs. So that was very fast. Also working this morning, Where's My Ring, 46 and 1. That's quick. Gallop out 59 and 1. And the Manama Gold that we saw, she worked 48 and 3, galloped out in 101. The work was better than the gallop out for her.
Okay, yeah. Ways and Means is one. I hope we'll get to see that work, but she's one that I've really liked as well, and that's a really strong. I mean, those are a couple of really fast works from those fillies.
Yeah, no doubt. It's just exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a great Oaks field, a great Derby field, where I like you said, I can't wait till the draw. Then you can really start thinking about it.
Yeah. No, super excited to step up to the wagering windows, fire up that TwinSpires account. It's loaded already. And it's ready to go. And I'm going to take advantage of all these offers because it's just a couple of clicks to make sure that you can take advantage of offers like the money back offer. And basically what this is Derby week, which is starting tomorrow opening night. If you bet a horse to win in all the eligible races and they run second or third, we'll give you up to $10 back. So it's basically a free bet. It's basically insurance on your win wager. Make sure you opt in at TwinSpires.com or the trusty TwinSpires app. Again, all eligible races starting tomorrow through Kentucky Derby Day. And then the Thursday leaderboard competition, which is one of my favorite types of promotions because it's basically a competition. You make $10 win bets on Thursdays, including this Thursday, which is Thurby, on all the races, and you earn points for running first, second, or third. Whoever scores the most points at the end gets the lion's share of the $2,500. And again, it's free to enter. So just click a couple buttons and you're involved, make those win bets, and participate in the $2,500 TwinSpires Thursday leaderboard competition. I mentioned it earlier, for the first time, I think ever, we're going to draw the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby during the live racing card, which starts tomorrow. It's opening night. 6 o'clock post time for the first race. We're going to draw between races 3 and 4. We're going to show off the brand spanking new paddock. This draw will be streamed at all the places you're watching this right now, and it's presented by Ford. Super exciting to unveil that paddock, live racing, draw the Oaks and Derby. There's a lot going on tomorrow.
There's a lot to be excited about tomorrow.
A lot to be excited about tomorrow morning as well. Quick final thought, Rosie, about what we saw again. Fierceness was awesome.
I mean, Fierceness was awesome, but like we saw a lot of good work.
Yep.
It does not help separate, you know, some of these fields that are like have a lot of options in the Oaks, especially, you know, a lot of fillies in there that I'm, you know, looking to see where they draw and how, you know, I can't wait to handicap the race because I think it's a little bit wide open and the Derby, all the good horses work good. You know?
We'll get to see a lot more of those Derby workers tomorrow. Same time, same place, same host, myself, same analyst, Rosie Napravnik. And that's going to wrap it up for the work show this morning. Same time, same place tomorrow. Lots of Derby work on the agenda. Looking forward to it. Enjoy your Friday.